Tune in now for the latest market update.
Market falls like a knife.
The weak hands are out, the strong hands own it.
If you think trading is easy, that's the fastest way you will actually get wrecked.
With your hosts, Jackson and Giovanni. This is Cointelegraph's Crypto Markets Live. Of Cointelegraph's Crypto Markets Live is sponsored by TokenBox. TokenBox is a convenient, state-of-the-art platform for managing your digital assets. It has advanced security infrastructure, deposit options for both cryptocurrencies and bank cards, a designated wallet for converting currencies on-site, and multiple portfolios that can be managed under one account. All this makes the platform a one-stop shop for professional managers and digital funds. Check out tokenbox.io using the link in the description below. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Crypto Markets Live with Cointelegraph. I'm your host and journalist, Jackson, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming our two guests, DJ Thistle, who is a DJ, Bitcoin investor, market analyst, and Wyckoff specialist, and Nebraskan Gunnar, who is a crypto trader, technical analyst, and founder of Elevate Trading and Level.co. How are you doing today, guys?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So we've got a nice little contest for all you viewers out there. You guys have to guess the price of Bitcoin that next week, Thursday, at this exact time. So what will the price be exactly 1 week from now? Write your guesses in the comments section after the live stream is over. I'm curious to see what you guys think. You know, are we going to continue this sideways chop? Are we going to go up? Are you going to down? Let us know your predictions in the comments, and you will win $100 of Cointelegraph merch. And we got some nice socks, sweaters, and all that stuff. So if you want some good clothing, make sure you put your guesses in. So today's show, we are going to be analyzing Bitcoin, doing some charting on Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies, including Ethereum, Neo, and Tezos. We'll also be looking more at the relationship between altcoins and Bitcoin, and we'll talk a little bit about the rumors of PayPal possibly integrating crypto payments into their system. And lastly, we'll do a little comparison of trading styles between DJ Thistle and Nebraskan Gunnar. There's some interesting stuff there that I can't wait to talk about. So guys, throughout the show, this is interactive, so please write your questions in the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. Anything relevant to the topics we're talking about. If you have a question, just write in the chat. I'll be looking through it, and I can ask it directly to these guys so we can get their expert take. All right. If you enjoy these kinds of streams, we have them every week, so make sure you subscribe to our channel to keep you up to date on all that's happening. All right, guys, you ready? Let's get into it. Cool. So let's start with Bitcoin. What's going on in the market right now? It's been, a little bit of an uneventful past few weeks. So maybe we can take a look at this sideways chop that we're currently in and break it down a bit more. Nebraskan Gunnar, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on the Bitcoin market right now?
Yeah, do you want me to pull up a chart here and show you what I got?
I would love to see what you're working with.
I'll share it here. All right, so you guys should be able to see this pretty well now.
Yeah,
been showing this for a while. Looks like pretty straightforward Wyckoff distribution to me. You can see that we have broken back down after another LPSY. All right, last point of supply. We're now consolidating, so we kind of pulled an extra step from what I originally had. We're consolidating down here, and this is kind of last chance for bulls before we make our way down to low 8K. As far as I see it, we could go as low as, 7,600, 7,500 even. But it's not looking too good. Bulls really need to pull this back up. Buyers need to really get this back up here above 9,400, 9,500 really quick. Otherwise, this is just consolidation before downside. That's how I see it. So we got a lot of selling here, a lot of sellers coming in up top. You can just see the two biggest volume candles here are both seller volume. So kind of getting that elevator down, stairs back up type thing going on.
great. DJ, you're also a Wyckoff specialist. Are you looking at the same thing as Nebraskan Gunnar?
More or less, yeah. Here, let me grab that screen button. Boop, boop, boop. Yep, how about it?
Gunnar, if you could take yourself off screen share.
Yeah. Am I off? Sorry, I'll stop here. My bad. There you go.
Okay.
So basically, this box. Just gotta move this. Okay, so yeah, as I agree with the fact that it's like the price action itself is looking heavy. When I do basic price action trading, I just look for these like areas where we see simple breakdowns, because that's when retail rushes into a trade. And those are the places where price likes to kind of gravitate and hunt towards. And what I started showing, I don't know, when was this back? Towards having after the liquidity crisis and coronavirus, sell off within all markets here. As things march back up, this would be another breakdown. So it took that out again, takes this out here, takes that out at 9,800. Halving was like right here, and has continued. If you drew another line here, this would be a run. Another line here, this would be a run, and then another line here. Again, that's a run, and it stops everybody out on that spike. So 9,800 plus or minus. Well, not even plus or minus. 9,800 plus an extra $50 or $60 seems to be a lot of pressure pushing down on the market. So until there's a volume to get through there and consolidate on the other side, unfortunately, it does look more like distribution in the short term.
So you guys are both using the Wyckoff method to analyze this sideways movement right now. Why did you choose to use this particular method to analyze these past few weeks of sideways movement? Nebraskan Gunnar.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I tend to look for, honestly. I really like Wyckoff. It was kind of one of the first things I started studying back when I got into charting, and it's just really helpful to give you the high time frame view of things, or the overall view of things. If I do think this is distribution, then I'm going to be looking to short more often than to long. Even if I'm tempted to take a long trade, I might hold off just because I know that the pressure right now seems to be on the downside and shown to be on the downside lately. So these things can kind of keep your emotions at bay and give you a level-headed view of where things are at and where they stand, even on the that push to 10.3K or the last push to 9.8K. So
yeah, for myself, it's just been long. Sorry, my kid's school just called, so I have to just run off for a second. I'll let you talk in case something might be wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. That's what you get for a live show. So,
yeah. So how would you suggest for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience trading these sideways movements? How would you suggest that they approach these kinds of scenarios? I think it's usually a lot more straightforward when there's lots of volatility and people have more of an idea of what to expect. But in these times, it can be very boring and people aren't exactly sure what to do. I've seen that sentiment, echoed a little bit in the chat so far. So how exactly would you approach this situation?
Right. So here, I'll share my screen real quick if I can. All right. So I should share. Am I sharing? Can you guys see this now?
Yep.
Sure. Okay, perfect. So how I kind of tackle these things is I'll set up a range, basically, if I really feel the need to trade. And if you're a full-time trader, you got to make some money somehow. So, price going sideways for a whole month, you got to find ways to make money in there. So you're basically going to you're going to kind of cancel all this middle stuff out, and you're going to get rid of all that noise, and you're just going to look at the tops and the bottoms here. And if you see pretty much every touch to the bottom bounces up and every touch to the top hits back down, right? So that's how you can cancel the noise in situations like this where it's going sideways. Also, you can look at your indicators, and if your indicators are showing, if you see this action, your indicators are showing this, then you're probably going sideways, right? And you're ranging. Whereas if you're seeing this kind of action and your indicators are starting to pull this kind of thing, all right, you're starting to see some bullish momentum come into the market, whereas vice versa, you're seeing the opposite. You're seeing some bearish momentum come into the market. So that can help change your bias or direct your bias towards what's happening. And it can also tell you if we're truly ranging or not. So something like this, all your indicators are straight sideways on whatever time frame, you're just ranging. So you can't really use that for any higher time frame bias, directional bias. So you have to just get rid of the noise, zoom out, something like this, and just have a plan. So if you have a plan here, if you say, all right, if price goes down to here, I'm going to buy this with a stop loss at 2% below or 3% below or whatever, that's your plan. Just stick to it. You've accepted that 3% loss now if you get stopped out, but there's no emotions involved. So you see a really sharp drop in a wick and you don't have a plan, or you're not sticking to your plan, you might sit out on that trade or whatever and miss out on that opportunity. So if you trust yourself in TA and you have good risk management, there's no reason not to just set a plan aside for yourself and just follow it. Get rid of those emotions, because that's what the market wants you to do, is they want you to freak out when you see this drop really fast and then bounce the other way and not take your trade. So
Gotcha. And just want to remind chat, if you guys have any questions about Bitcoin price action, or literally anything related to Bitcoin, don't be afraid to write it in the chat. I'm watching it and I can ask it directly to our experts here. So DJ, I'd like to get your opinion on this. When you see this kind of sideways movement, do you see this as an opportunity to make some money, or do you take more of a hands-off approach?
Well, I guess it depends on the trader and how different traders approach things. Like some people are just focused on swing trading, position trading. Other people are, short-term margin traders. So for myself, I do like an allocation pyramid. So I have the top of the pyramid is like for risky things, and then margin trading, and then swing trading, and then holding kind of thing, right? So for my, let's just say, I'll go to screen share here. So for the day traders, they're looking at, shorter time frames, 1H. So for today, let's say in this question, we'll look for more like swing traders. So as this 9,800 area keeps on providing pressure, and these lows are coming up, and like he was talking about the range here, what a person can maybe do is then be looking for times when we do see stop runs to hedge at the top, and then when the price comes back into support, to hedge the bottom, meaning short the pump and long the dump. So then that way, if if you do get in a nice short at the resistance and you long the bottom, if it breaks down, you've already got one short here. You can let go of your long and reshort a breakdown. So you would then keep the lot or the lots that you placed at the top of the range, and your first lots that you let go would be the ones that you let go here. So it's I'm very much a time frame specific that way, but I think that hedge yourself before you wreck yourself kind of mentality is important in ranging.
Cool. So I'd like to go back to you as well, DJ, because of your small interruption before. And I'd like to hear from you, what do you think are the advantages of following the Wyckoff method during this kind of time period?
Yeah. So for me, whether it be, Wyckoff or Livermore or the sort of astronomy stuff I do, I like to use it as market pivots and just general structure. Rather than fine tuning. I like to look at these, general breakdowns and support, even on the support side, these raids still come into play. So for me, I look at Wyckoff as a general larger pattern. And then in the short term, I might be aware of these patterns, but I'm still looking at just fine tuned, super simple technical analysis of where to enter and exit the trade. So the Wyckoff to me is just giving me some semblance of the market, and then I leave it at that.
Awesome. So we've got our first question from chat, thanks to Niraj Sareen, who asks, what would be the factors that drive Bitcoin below 2.5K? Do you guys have any thoughts on what things might force Bitcoin's price to go that low in the coming time period?
Binance hack. Binance hack. I don't know. 2.5, man. That would be. I don't know. It's a pretty. If it happened like in the short term, or if it happened in the long term, that's also a million different scenarios involved. If we get down to 3K area again somehow, and we kind of start ranging there and start building an accumulation zone there, we could wick down to 2,500 or 2,200 area. For now, I would say I wouldn't even worry about 2,200 or 2,500. I'd worry about your 6K level, because 7.6 to 8K is probably like the lower part of the range that we're in right now. So even to get to like a 5 or a 6K range right now would be pretty difficult.
Yeah, he added some context there. He said the PNF chart points to 1 to 1.4K price in the short term. So do you have any thoughts on this, DJ?
Oh, sorry, DJ, go for it.
Yeah, no. So I know this will be a controversial talking point because there's no specific number, but the mining floor has continually been the price floor for years. And that number generates argument because a lot of the time price floor for mining is considered with a lot of the higher markets, like higher price markets and higher power markets. But when I say mining floor, I mean the most brand new machines in the most cheapest power regions in China. That has continually been the price floor for Bitcoin. So to get to 2K, like, that is so far below cost, even we're not even talking like silver miners having, hedge their whatever in cost. But for Bitcoin as a network, to me, that would signal something is wrong with the network. I don't even know if it would have to be a hack of hacks, and then the hackers just dumping, into exchanges. And I think at that point, people would be aware of the hacks and the addresses, and the exchanges would be blocking the addresses. Or, if there was a hack that big, they would be trying to offload it OTC, and in which case that's, I just don't see 2K really, unless something is wrong with Bitcoin.
Cool. Gotcha. There's another question here from Mr. Cat, who says he heard that that there's $1.6 billion worth of options going to expiry on Durbit tweeted this recently. And he asks how the option expiry affects the market price action. Do you guys have any thoughts on how option expiry affects market price action?
Oh man, I followed that a lot last year. I'd have to dive deeper into it to see how it would affect it this time, but I would definitely expect some volatility around that time for sure.
DJ, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't trade options. I'm more just sort of a margin leverage trader or spot. And so to like comment on the nuances of options, I just be talking about my rear end, and I don't want to do that. Generally speaking, expiry always comes with volatility. If we look at CME and like gold or silver or anything else, or even CME, Bitcoin, or even years ago with OK Coin International, the BTC USD 3M market, there's always shenanigans around the day before and the day of options expiration. So things always tend to go to the direction of the biggest market holders, but we don't know what direction that is. So it could be a pump so that they can release some options. It could be a dump because they're heavy short. So I don't want to speculate.
Yeah. If you do want to look at that a little bit more, anybody that's listening, you can search in on Twitter. You can search at Nebraska and Gunner, and then next to you can type in like CME. And then last year I did a lot of studies on that and really long-term ones. So, and the year before. So there's a lot of stuff on that from previous posts that I made if you guys are interested in going back and looking at that. Cool.
I think one of you guys has your screen share up. I can't remember. Is it DJ?
Yes.
My bad.
No, all good, all good. So yeah, so we've got, thanks for those questions, guys. And sorry, Mr. Cat, we couldn't answer that a little bit more deeply, but expect volatility. I think that's what we got from that. So we've got a number of new viewers here. So can we just rehash, you guys both we're expecting Bitcoin to do a little bit of a downturn over the next, in the short term. So could we once again just rehash those targets that you were looking at? I believe it was somewhere around 8K, but I don't remember the exact numbers. Gunnar, can you just
go for it?
Yeah. Just pull, and I can share my screen if you want me to. Just pulling up the chart real quick. I'll just clear everything out of here. Obviously, what catches my eye here is our EMAs. All right, which I use on every time frame, and then my 99 SMA, and you can kind of see that. And it's easier on a different chart because Bitcoin doesn't have that much history on Binance, but you can see that price gets above it, it tends to be drawn towards it. Okay, price gets above it, drawn towards it, or below it, drawn towards it. So this is a nice target here, 7,700-ish on the weekly chart. If you look on the daily, it's kind of got the same thing. So we're above it, price is going to be drawn towards it. So right now I'd say 8,500-ish. It varies on different exchanges a little bit, but we could also throw some Fibonacci's on here. If you don't use Fibonacci's, highly recommend it, especially if you like to trade trends. It's good to know where price is going to hit and what percentages need to break for the market to respect that and continue moving in that direction. But anyway, so as far, I think 8,500 to 8,400 makes a really good spot for some support to show up. But lately we've seen that support doesn't really like to show up, and we just like to keep going through. It's kind of been on the way up and the way down. We just like to go straight up or straight down. So a likely landing zone for some real accumulation for a bounce is probably this area right here. And I think DJ had this highlighted on his chart. So somewhere around here, this breakdown area, and then break back out. It's just still untested. So the market's probably going to want to visit that.
Awesome. Are you looking at those same targets there, DJ?
Yeah, I'll put the screen share back on here. So for me, I don't like to get too too set on a target ahead of time. I just kind of like to play the levels, and I already showed you guys, my general how I do the breakdowns there. So this one and this one, these raids have continually been making support, whether it be here, and then the other night. The next, push down is sort of near here with this consolidation. So old tops make new bottoms is a phrase I like to use. Here would be sort of a breakout area that was never backfilled or stops rated, and then down here again as well, and that is coming near the 50 and 2/3 fib retracements. So yeah, I agree with using fibs is always nice to see where the market is being sort of magnetically drawn to, and if those areas converge with raid levels, then I tend to bid those areas harder.
Awesome. I just want to remind the audience, if you have any questions regarding any of the topics we're discussing, please be sure to write them in the chat. Jamie, I see your spam, and I appreciate your question on the differences in major cryptos between Bitcoin and alts, and that's actually a topic that we're going to touch upon later. So if you stay tuned for that, we're going to catch up with that shortly. As for your other questions about crypto wallets, we're not in the business of suggesting crypto wallets, so I'm sorry that we can't answer that one. So next, I'd like to move on.
I was just going to say, just because we were just sort of recapping it for the people that dropped in, I would also say that on the upside, once because there's been many different attempts to push down at 9,800, so some volume through 9,800 is probably going to create a reaction that you don't want to get left behind on either. So, you got to look both ways. Thanks.
Very true. Yeah, good point. Thanks for pointing that out.
Awesome. So now I'd like to move into our alts section of the show. We're going to be taking a look at a few different altcoins, including Tezos, Neo, and Ethereum. And then we'll take a look at, the relationship between altcoins and Bitcoin and how you can use Bitcoin potentially to inform your trades on altcoins. So first, let's start with Tezos. I'd like to get your guys' analysis of the Tezos market and what's going on there. So maybe we can start with you, Gunnar, and take a look at what's going on in the Tezos market.
Sure. Tezos is one I traded quite a bit last year. I'll share my screen quick. Lately, I haven't touched it. So really, my indicators, this is Top Gun X. It's an indicator I developed with my friend Satoshi Heavy, one of my partners. But anyway, so it gives these buy signals approaching. Okay, this is the signal that basically price is likely to dip, and I need to buy. So what I looked for here, and this is one of my biggest trades in altcoins this year, is this bullish divergence here between when that signal is given and momentum. So this is a momentum indicator. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Fibonacci level from the whole move after that signal is given. And I'm basically going to look to buy the 0.786 fib, right? So my strong buy was here at $1.23 area. I think I started accumulating here at about $1.24. So that was about my average entry. And then basically you just kind of sit with your stop loss below the 886 and let it ride. And you can see momentum carried and price action carried. Once we break the 0.236 per the rules, we should continue on for new highs from that trend. So this is basically telling me that trend has reversed and now we're in a bullish trend. Tells me where to buy, and then I just let it ride. And then if you guys want to know targets, a lot of people don't know how to find targets. You can draw your fib levels backward, okay, going from top to bottom. And let me clear this off real quick. So then you would look for, the 1.618 would be one of your targets. And then from there, you can see how the next fib levels above hit, just all nice in order, right? So that's really pretty price action. As far as XTZ right now, I've been more focused on Bitcoin because I think Bitcoin is going to make a big move soon. And I like to reduce my exposure in altcoins when Bitcoin's going crazy. For right now, you can see that we have failed to make new highs here, okay, on momentum. And we're starting to lose some momentum out of the zone. So I expect some sort of pullback. We're still in this bullish upper territory. So as long as XTZ doesn't break down from probably this major level here, 168, we should be able to see momentum start to build a base here and go into our bullish continuation here. So we've still got lower or higher lows here, okay? This is still able to bullish continue on momentum. So as long as we can hold somewhere around here and probably hold the overall uptrend. So we'll say this is the overall uptrend right now. Okay, just a quick look. As long as we can hold this area, hold the uptrend, we should be able to make it up to $5. $5, $6, $7. I still have a target of that for XTZ. It's a relatively newer coin. It doesn't have too much history. I think that there's a lot of reason for this to push up once it clears this area up here. So we just need to clear this upper resistance, and we've got a lot of room to run.
Awesome. That's a great little example of how to use a momentum indicator and your Fibonacci levels. That was really cool. So DJ, what are your thoughts on Tezos?
Yeah, if you could just unscreen share there.
All you.
All me? Okay, cool. I'm a pretty big Tezos bull. Technology-wise, the VC and money backing the project is strong. The chart itself looks strong. This does not include the old futures prices. This is just spot. And unlike Gunnar, I tend to look at the Bitcoin ratio price and not the USD price. I want to be gaining my Bitcoin, right? So I see that over here has been the resistance. We broke out of that into price discovery, and it's been generally ranging, or it's basically making a big dumb triangle. So back here we have support, and if it were to break down, here's our two main levels. And even at that, if that's just now that we're in price discovery, it would be really nice to see this level in here hold, because if it can hold and move with Bitcoin, then the next times when it starts moving, it can pick up where Gunnar left off or was talking about with the USD price and push higher. And I just want to supplement that with, here it is. There's some fractal crossover here between between Tezos and ETH, Ethereum, and that was quite a strong bull market. And the bottoms of the market looked pretty congruent. So if so, that sort of just reinforces the fact that the USD price has time to run, and the same as the Bitcoin price consolidation, or the Tezos Bitcoin consolidation.
Awesome. Thanks for that look at Tezos, guys.
Yeah, I think we should in the Bitcoin pairing. It looks to me like we should get a small move up and then probably a bigger move down, and then it should take off. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. So yeah, good analysis, DJ.
Thank
you. I love the positive energy here. Jonah, I see your question about Ethereum, and we're going to get to Ethereum in just a few minutes. So stay tight for that. And I just want to remind all of our audience members, if you're watching, don't be afraid to ask questions of our guests. Just write them in the chat. I'll be looking at them and asking them directly to them. If you're enjoying the content, please hit that subscribe button so we can bring you this content every single week. And don't forget, there is a contest going on right now. If you can guess the Bitcoin price 1 week from now, you will win $100 of CT merch. So you can get a nice CT shirt, some socks, some comfy sweaters. It'll be good stuff. So let's move on to our next altcoin, which is NEO. What are you guys thinking of the NEO market right now? This is another popular cryptocurrency that's coming out of China.
That's you right now, DJ.
Okay, sure. So yeah, screen share.
I'm sure you're looking at Bitcoin pairing too.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, you bet. So what I'm looking at here is clear downtrend. Wait, sorry. Oh. Clear downtrend, a break above the downtrend, backfills it. The backfill has been seeing support where this original, we'll call it original breakout level would be. So again, back to those simple raid levels we were watching from, the Bitcoin chart from before. And that looks like it could be could make an annoying range along the bottom. So I think people are going to try and bid the bottom and short the top. And whether you want to do that and hold both sides, so that you're hedged, so that you're not, a lot of people have a very short recency bias on what their profit loss is. So if you can, long the bottom of the range and short the top of the range. And again, if things break out, then you let go of this, in this situation, you've longed here, you've shorted here. If the price, does that, let's say, and it backfills, you're letting go of your longs, you're re-longing, you still have your longs down here, or vice versa. If it does something like this, you've taken the short here and a long here, you let go of your long and you add to it. The one thing to watch when you get these sideways movements on the bottom is if you get something like this. Becomes a very Wyckoff setup. This area here is called the spring. And what it does is it makes people think that the market is going to break down. But what it does is it comes back into the range and then fires up to the range and then leaves out. And it just ends up being this whole big FOMO of, oh my God, I missed out. So when the price exits the range at the top or the bottom, you want to be looking for it to enter back in. Then you've been head faked.
That's a good tip. Before I throw it over to you, Gunnar, Gabriel Massa in the chat asks why you're here when Arsenal is playing right now. Arsenal is up 1-0. So yeah.
Well, see, my doctor told me I need to reduce stress in my life, so I had to stop watching them. I saw the first goal though, so I got it playing in the background.
I figured, and I feel that, man. As an Arsenal fan myself, I feel that. All right, so what's your take on NEO?
Oh man, NEO. Honestly, to me, it just looks like another major. It looks like Ethereum or Bitcoin, basically. So, share my screen. It looks like it's really coupled with Bitcoin, so it's probably something I wouldn't touch right now in a USD pairing. And pretty much, I always trade USD pairings. If I feel like Bitcoin's strong, then I'll usually look at Bitcoin pairings just for some extra confluence in my trade. If Bitcoin pairing looks strong and USD looks strong, I usually feel better about it, or it may help me find a better entry on my USD pairing if the BTC looks weak, the pairing. But anyway, what I see here is kind of like my other chart I said, price likes to drop to the 99 SMA. Looks like we're holding it as support right now. But otherwise, I have a downtrend break. I have a stop hunt, so I have a downtrend break with a retest here, which is beautiful. And then I have a stop hunt here, which is even better. Okay. That's usually where I look for good entries on that second stop hunt, that second sweep. And honestly, I would probably expect us to go to the 786 level, at least the golden pocket. So I'd expect 813 here. And again, that's if this 236 holds where it breaks above and closes where invalidated. But for now, I would look at the golden pocket here around $8, just a little above $8. If that doesn't hold, then we've got the 786, which is basically all we have left till it goes to like $5. Okay. So also what I'm looking at is my momentum indicator. So if price can drop, so if this drops to, the golden pocket and momentum stays upside, right? So we get some bullish divergence on momentum. I would expect a nice strong bounce from there. But if momentum starts to break down, then I would be more cautious. And still get a bounce there, but I would be more likely to not marry that position, maybe take some profit off if we did get a little bounce here. But overall, it kind of looks like it's almost matching Litecoin price action to me. And that's just a good point real quick is, Litecoin usually leads in strength of the market and leads in weakness of the overall market. So just something to be aware of. Litecoin hasn't shown much strength at all the last month or two. True.
That's actually a great little segue because we have someone in the chat who's asking about Litecoin. Robin Clarici says Litecoin lost lots of fuel since Lee sold. No good news, though the project is strongly linked to BTC and XRP. Is it silently doing something good for crypto? So yeah, maybe we can take this opportunity to talk a little bit about Litecoin. If you have any thoughts on Litecoin, maybe you can share them now. I know Gunnar, you already touched upon it a little bit. DJ, do you have any thoughts on Litecoin?
My general thought on Litecoin is it's sort of like a Bitcoin test net in a way. So it has its utility, and I just kind of leave it at that. It doesn't, when it moves, it's moving with the market outside of its halving rallies. So it's not something that I try to front run the market with.
Awesome. Do you have anything further to add there, Gunnar?
Yeah, actually, I have a pretty cool chart, and you'll like this, DJ. It's Wyckoff. I'm just trying to find it here right quick. I know I posted on Twitter not long ago. So let me 2 seconds. It's really cool, though. So Wyckoff, if you do like to follow Wyckoff and any patterns at all, you need to make sure you understand volume. So a lot of people see a pattern, but the volume doesn't match. So it's good to read the volume with that. But with that said, I found it. So what I'm seeing here is you can see these two pictures. This is from a online textbook thing about Wyckoff from the SPX. Anyway, you see this breakdown here, sharp breakdown. I get a selling climax, which is usually indicates that most of the sellers are shaken out at that point. So then we get this nice automatic reaction here, float sideways into an accumulation zone, and then we start to drop one more time to that spring scenario that DJ talked about earlier. And this also sets us up for a double bottom. Right, so Litecoin showing a lot of similarities here. Okay, we got this top here, steep drop fall, steep sharp fall, and then we've got this uptrend here that has now broken down. And if we fast forwarded this, because this post was from probably a month ago, you would see that we retested up in this area and we're starting to fall again. Volume is relatively sideways here. So we want to see some volume start to pick back up down here. And if we do see a double bottom form, it'd be a really good opportunity potentially to get some good entries around $19 or $20, $22, somewhere around there.
Nice.
Great. Before we move on to our last altcoin analysis, which will be Ethereum, we've got some people in the chat who are wondering, do you guys trade DeFi coins at all? And Zaza was also wondering what your opinions are on Hex 2. So either of those topics are fair game. Do you trade DeFi coins, and what are your thoughts on Hex 2?
I'll let DJ start. He's so excited.
Yeah, it's funny because I posted about DeFi last night, and it's just the meme of Steve Buscemi saying, hey, you fine kids, because it's just, it's a new thing, and anytime there's a new thing, it's almost like, okay, when did this happen? What's going on? So to me, there's just so much information in crypto, and it changes so rapidly that I just look at charts. I don't really care what the coin is. If the general market is saying rising tide is going to take all ships, then I'm on board. So DeFi, Wi-Fi, whatever.
So you
and
trade
Hex. I don't really have much to say about in a positive fashion, so I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to be the guy that stirs problems.
Fair enough.
All out our opinions.
Gunnar, do you trade DeFi coins, and do you have any?
I got a tattoo on my back that says DeFi. No, I don't. I pretty much solely trade Bitcoin, honestly. Once you really get in the rhythm with something and you really understand something, why change it up? A lot of people trade altcoins and they just do really well with them, and they trade basically the same setup throughout all the altcoins. They all like the same. Well, I trade Bitcoin. It acts the same pretty much all day, every day. I know when it's good conditions for trading, when it's not good conditions for trading. It's like why take 10 different majors in college when you can take one major and really be good at that? That's kind of how I feel about it. So I'll trade occasionally, like if my indicator gives a good signal on an altcoin with a lot of volume on it, I'll take it. But otherwise, the other thing is too, half these companies, remember all these good companies we heard about back in 2017? Oh, this is a strong company. They got a strong team. They're so strong, and all this crap. And it's like, none of that matters right now in crypto. Fundamentals they only get you so far right now. I'm sure everyone thought Petland was a great URL back in 2000, and it's not there anymore. So don't marry too many of your bags right now, you guys. Make sure that your company is actually going to be around for next bull run, because you'd hate to have 75% of your holdings in some company you really believe in, and the whole rest of the market takes off and that one goes straight sideways for 10 years.
Yeah, I'm very in agreement with that, even though I'm a pro altcoin person. Like I like the altcoin markets. It's a good way to generate Bitcoin. There's, new nascent technologies coming out, but, very few things buck the trend. And that's why I said, a rising tide takes all ships, because when things are moving or alt seasons or whatever, get in and go for it then. But just blindly buying the dips on things that are going down 99.999% can get painful for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good point though too. A lot of people don't trade leverage, which is probably smart. And if you don't trade leverage, altcoins are your leverage trading.
Yes.
So like he said, he likes to make more Bitcoin. I do too. I just make more Bitcoin by leveraging my Bitcoin. So, but before I was good at that, I was trading altcoins, because that was the one way I could get 30% in a week or a day.
Altcoins are your Bitcoin leverage. I like that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our final altcoin analysis, which will be Ethereum. Gunnar, I'd like to start with you. You noted a relationship between Ethereum and Bitcoin in a recent Twitter post. So could you just explain this relationship that you're seeing a little bit further?
Yeah, let me share it here. So obviously I said I trade basically solely Bitcoin, but I use Ethereum. I analyze Ethereum daily because I use it as a gauge for where Bitcoin's at. Bitcoin will usually follow, or Ethereum will show strength before Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin is holding support but Ethereum's breaking down, then I'm tempted to think that Bitcoin's going to break down, or vice versa. So I can use I can get a little bit of an edge on the market and use some of these subtle clues from other assets to say, okay, Ethereum looks strong, it's starting to break up a little bit, Bitcoin's dropping, so this is probably a stop hunt on Bitcoin to the downside, and I can get in here, and then Bitcoin's going to follow Ethereum. Now it's not 100%, and I have to figure out when that's valid, I guess is the word. But anyway, so here's kind of, and I've noticed I'm a low time frame trader. This is a 2-hour chart. I'll trade typically like 15 to 30 minute charts. But anyway, so you can see here, and this plays out on multiple time frames, is that Ethereum price in blue, Bitcoin price in red. So when we get to a top area where I think a top could be forming, and I see Ethereum starting to show really strong, really good strength, and Bitcoin lagging or not showing strength or showing weakness, that's a signal for me that the top, we could be topping, and I can get in on Bitcoin on a short here with a stop above the high, and with a good hit rate as well. So you can see here, really strong push on Ethereum. Bitcoin did absolutely nothing. We dropped after. Little strong extra push to sweep the highs here on Ethereum. Bitcoin made an equal high, dropped. Same thing here. Strong push on Ethereum. Bitcoin made an equal high, we dropped, and then you can see the weakness that followed. Again, it just follows along. And then even this major top here, Ethereum super strong here. Bitcoin, nothing at all on this last move. So it's a really good way to induce FOMO into the market too. And a lot of people will say, oh, Ethereum's going strong, Bitcoin's going to follow because look what's been happening. But if you really read into it and read between the lines, you're actually getting some false signals there.
I just wanted to add to that because of the Litecoin question before, and a relationship here is that, like you say, okay, well, Ethereum's going strong, Bitcoin's going to follow. Well, for the people that generally trade the altcoin BTC pair instead of the altcoin USD pair, usually the altcoin BTC pair outdoes Bitcoin during these rallies, that you're talking about, or the sell-offs. So, totally correct. Yeah, okay, the pair is looking good. Something's good going to happen. when in reality, the pair is, you know, making some separation just because, again, altcoins are your leverage. And Litecoin used to totally do this with what you're talking about with Ethereum, like years and years ago. You know, Litecoin would dump, and then, you know, 5 minutes or 10 minutes later, it was almost like, you know, watch whale calls, free plug for them, I guess, sorry. And then all of a sudden, you know, the liquidations show up on the page for LTC, you get in your whatever, and then Bitcoin is like 10 minutes later. So yeah, this is a great tool.
Yeah, it's nice when you can take advantage of that. I think even some traders were taking advantage of the SPY or of Bitcoin lagging just behind the SPY this last couple of weeks. So, but you have to be careful and not go too heavy, because at some point that correlation is going to run out, and that's when people usually get greedy. And once everyone knows about the correlation, and then it doesn't play out, and then everyone loses a ton of money. So.
Awesome. DJ, do you have any additional analysis you want to add on to?
Sure, just real quick. Yeah, I'll just so something that I found interesting recently is this movement in Ethereum, fairly similar to the old Bitcoin days here. So I'm kind of wondering, I don't know if this is the first of a little scribble along the bottom, or if these are congruent. That I'm not sure about yet, but to me, it looks like a very similar market pattern. So that was just what I wanted to throw on ETH. And then just real quickly too, because years ago, literally like 3 years ago, I guess, we followed this fractal on the way up, and then at the top, it has continued to play out. We've been adding this continually on TradingView and Twitter. So just for people watching, everything's been holding fine. We have this wick down here. We have this wick down here. So we could see either the price of Ripple get back up to the box and sell off before a bull market, or back on our spring theory, if it gets back into the box, then this idea is dead. So I know a lot of people have been following this idea with me for quite some time, and it's just a time worth noting that things are getting to the end.
That's awesome.
Cool. So we've got a question from Jonah Curry, which has been bumped by Rohit. Thanks, guys, for supporting each other. And he wants to know if Ethereum has the potential to surpass Bitcoin, and let's say in price. Do you think that Ethereum will ever overtake Bitcoin? I mean, and maybe more generally, if we can put this to the rest of the altcoins, is Bitcoin dominance ever not going to be a thing? Gunnar, let's start with you.
Honestly, I think if some other things start to climb, we'll see Bitcoin dominance stay the same, and we'll just see altcoins start to fall out of there. You know, we could lose a ton of altcoins, have Ethereum be worth more, and have Bitcoin dominance be the same. Ethereum will likely, I don't think anything will ever pass Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is almost like an index fund of crypto market in general. So if Bitcoin's succeeding, everything else is succeeding. You just don't want it. You don't want to see anything surpass Bitcoin. I just don't see why you'd want that, you know?
DJ, do you look at it the same way?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I think there are coins that have gotten higher in price, you know, so silly altcoins. I think like 42 was what it was called back in the day. I mean, it was worth.
Wasn't Siacoin worth? Wasn't 92 Bitcoin worth one Siacoin at one time?
Exactly, right. So yeah, yeah, exactly. So you know, things happen, but in terms of like a sustained effort, that would be a lot of the altcoins have quite a high total supply and circulating supply. So for a lot of these to try and outdo Bitcoin would just be a phenomenal market cap. And is that market cap a momentary flash in the pan? You know, because I think Ripple did technically surpass Bitcoin for like 2 days in 2017, because they, you know, were counting the total supply and not the circulating supply and yada, yada, yada. But, you know, look where that is now. So I just, again, rising tide takes all boats, and Bitcoin is the one that's on CME futures. You know, we're trading it with sugar and wheat, and not Bitcoin Cash with sugar and wheat. So like, I just think Bitcoin is the one until something really technologically advanced and huge mass adoption from somebody that just doesn't like Bitcoin, and something would have to just blow Bitcoin out of the water, because like we were talking about before, Litecoin is sort of like the test net. So even if you do have an altcoin that you want to try something with, it's just getting reintegrated back into Bitcoin anyway. So I think the technology wants to make its way back onto the Bitcoin blockchain.
I think that's a fair assessment. You know, we've already seen coins that are more technologically advanced, so to speak, than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin does have that first mover advantage. So, and that means a lot in this situation. So we've got a question from Crypto House. Well, not a question, a comment. He says fundamental analysis doesn't work. And he seems to be appreciating your technical analysis. Do you agree? Do you think that fundamental analysis just doesn't work when it comes to these Bitcoins and altcoins, Gunnar?
It works if you know what you're doing. I have friends that trade on almost solely FA, and they make some huge gains. And I've tried it before, and it's just not for me. I just trade what's on the chart. If there's some good FA backing up the chart, great. That's better confluence for me. If there's some bad FA going on and I see the chart looks good, I might just stay away instead of trading it. But I don't really use FA as my only analysis. But if you're good at it, keep doing it. If you're making money, don't let anybody tell you anything different.
Gotcha. DJ?
Yeah, I generally agree, because a lot of the time with crypto, the news is already baked into the cake kind of thing. You know, the developers buying when it's super low, and then, you know, the team, and then the homies, and then the private group, and then the Discord, and then Twitter, and then by the time you hear about it on the news article, boom, it's done. So yeah, I'd rather look at a chart and volume.
Fair enough. And we've been looking at a lot of charts today, and one of the things that I've noticed has kept coming up was this idea of correlations. You know, we've been showing multiple charts next to each other. We've been looking at Bitcoin versus Ethereum, how they're correlating with each other. And I think this, you know, it's a bit of a basic question, but maybe it's worth talking about a bit more. I mean, why are correlations so important? I mean, what's the use of spending the time looking for these correlations rather than just looking at your chart and seeing what you can find there? What's the point of finding these, trying to find these relationships, and what use do they have? Gunnar, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, just to give yourself an edge on the market. You know, if you can find, a while ago, I found out that spot prices being lower than USDT prices on Bitcoin meant that we were generally bearish, and vice versa the other way. So on high time frames, I would just look for whatever direction, you know, whatever that was telling me, and it played out for 3 or 4 months with pretty much 100% accuracy. So just finding correlations that are happening and really studying them and seeing if they're actually valid. Yeah. And that just gives you an edge up on everyone else who's only looking at one thing. You know, why not add an extra tool to your belt?
Yeah, because sometimes those correlations are actually, here we go with the FA, are actually tied to something within the fundamental analysis. So those are the times when, you know, it's important to have a broad view of the market. There was times when Bitcoin was following USD JPY, and there was times when Bitcoin and the yuan were staggered, but still generally following each other in a staircase for a couple of years. So if money trying to leave a country, or a liquidity crisis, or whatever it may be is happening, that those big fundamental drivers are going to, of course, be correlated. And I think that's what, you know, when Gunnar was mentioning the legacy markets, you know, the SPY and yada yada, the Dow and Bitcoin moving together, because in these times of uncertainty, you know, the correlations to me is risk on, risk off. So if the market is risk on, rising tide takes all boats. And if the market is risk off, then, you know, especially recently when everyone was selling everything, and then becomes a liquidity crisis. So even if Bitcoin is at 10K and the market is dumping, if, you know, these investment managers are, you know, losing money in their other positions, they are selling their Bitcoin to, you know, to cover their losses. So that's why it dumped with everything else and came back stronger.
Yeah, same with Ethereum. Back when, you know, all those ICOs were dumping it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more. If we can expand this a little even further, you know, what's your process when it comes to finding these correlations? I mean, what do you look for? I know DJ was just talking a little bit about it, looking at the fundamentals of different markets. But what do you look for, Gunnar, when you're trying to find these fundamentals, and what kind of mentality do you have to avoid finding a false correlation and to avoid pigeonholing yourself into forcing yourself to view a relationship between two different assets?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's some of it's just some people notice little subtleties that others don't. My brain picks up patterns really well. I'm a pattern guy. I can look at a chart and be like, oh, that looks like a chart I saw 7 weeks ago. And I'll pull up the other chart and be like, oh shit, those are the exact same. Like that's the exact same pattern, That's why I like to post fractals every once in a while because they're fun. But some people notice that kind of stuff and some people don't. I would just say be aware, like keep your peripheral vision and look at other things every once in a while, have your watch list pulled up with things next to each other. And you can see that you'll see day in and day out that what their price is doing. And maybe you'll start to pick up some correlations there. Or, for a while when Link would break out, the Bitcoin would break out like a day or two later. So find whatever correlations you can. And then if you think that it will give you an edge, then you need to obviously back test it a little bit and see if it's really valid. And then obviously be a little skeptical, especially if it's something aside from your normal trading strategy. But if it's something that will just give you confluence from your already developed trading strategy, then yeah, definitely take advantage of that. What the market and just always know that the market's always changing. So there's times where even the strategy you have set that's been working for the last month and a half, that was a 75% win rate. It may be a 30% win rate for the next week and a half or 2 weeks because the market is changing and conditions change. And, if you aren't willing to adapt and you think that just whatever you're doing is going to work all the time, it's not. And even if there's a correlation that works for 6 months or there's a Fibonacci level that bounces on the 4-hour time frame for 6 months, just be ready for that day it doesn't work. And if you are stubborn and you keep trying to use it, and you go down with that, you use it 10 times in a row and it doesn't work any of those 10 times, maybe you need to change up your thinking.
Does that sound similar at all to your process, DJ?
Yeah, for me, I guess correlations could be like fundamental correlations, fractals, market patterns, or big picture stuff, which is a segue for the end of the program. So it's a big question. I'm happy.
Awesome. Cool. So I'd just like to remind our audience, everyone who's watching here, if you have a question for any of our guests, please just write it in the chat. We can ask them any of those questions that you have. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe to our channel. And don't forget that we have a contest going on. If you can guess the Bitcoin price 1 week from now, you'll get $100 of CT merch. So leave your price prediction in the comment section after the live stream, and we'll be monitoring that. And you can claim that prize next week when you tune in. And, as they were saying, keep up to date with all the crypto news and market stuff. The best way to do that is go on the Cointelegraph website. So, so let's move on to our next topic, which is about PayPal. Gunnar, according to a recent Twitter post, you seem to be worried about the rumors that that PayPal and Venmo may be soon integrating crypto payments into their system. Many take this rumor as a bullish signal. Max Kaiser, who is a Reuters host, even predicted an oncoming global hash war. Why do you not appear to feel the same?
Oh, in distribution times of distribution, it's good to get some good news out there, get some liquidity out there to, sell your positions, fill your short bids or your short ass, whatever you're looking for. I think the arrow on this is slightly off because I had like 3 different news stories, but anyway. eBay is considering integrating Bitcoin into PayPal. Woohoo! 2014, spring of 2014. All right. So anybody just mega bullish here that bought and expected instant rocket like this was sadly mistaken. Okay. It's just another weird rumor here with sources. Back in somewhere around this time in here, we had some weird rumor about crypto being banned that somebody started and everyone panic sold. And then 2 hours later or 6 hours later, they said crypto is not being banned. That was a BS rumor. And what happened? So market tops, distribution patterns, they like to put out good news, make people feel good. And at vice versa at the bottoms, they like to put out bad news. So I bet if you go back and look at these last 6 months here, you'll find a lot of good news posts, a lot of bad news posts, bad news articles. Over here, you'll probably find a lot of bad news articles too around that time. So, whatever the common cheap, the whole, whatever's being broadcasted to all the people is usually not the actual market intent.
If you keep this chart up here and you move your cursor to like, I think roughly November, that peak that goes November 2014, so right before the 2015 line there, there's a little hit back up to the, down a little further. There's a punch back up to that red line.
Yep.
Yeah, right there. I believe that was also eBay news. That was also PayPal news, I think.
I think you're actually right. Yep. There was one over here. There was one over here too somewhere.
Yeah.
And then there was like a couple. There was like 4 different times it came out in 2014.
Yeah, and it was always right that just sort of a liquidity trap.
Yep. So sources, you guys, can we get some real information here, or is it just sources? Did somebody big just put out something to get people to push it to 9,800?
Yeah, well, PayPal hasn't confirmed or denied the rumors, so we'll have to see if they end up being true. We've got a question from Marcus Blackburn, who asks, any books or literature for improving crypto trading skills and analysis that you recommend? Are you guys well-versed in your crypto trading literature, and do you have any specific recommendations to look for people?
I'm writing something that is sort of, the working title is like the Ghost of Livermore. So if Jesse Livermore was trading crypto, so I think that's something that
hold on 1 second, Gunnar, your screen's still sharing. I love the Arsenal game's up, but
Nothing.
Turn that off.
What was I saying?
Your Ghost of Livermore.
The Ghost of Livermore.
Oh yeah. So I mean, plug for myself. That should be out in the next month or so. Crypto specific. I mean, I think really just like reading as much as you can about like classic traders like Wyckoff and Livermore and Gann and whatnot are bang on, because those same market structures and market models have forever been the same. They existed before they were able to take them from ticker tape to chart, and they've existed ever since. And they're, in bonds or futures, Bitcoin. So just simple trading, original trading patterns is what I would suggest for anyone.
Any recommendations from you, Gunnar?
Yeah, I'm not a big book guy. I mostly just did a lot of online research when I first started. People that I felt had a very good knowledge base, I would ask them questions. And then it was just a lot of trial and error and kind of like learning what worked for me. One thing that people think is just because because you see one person profitable using a strategy, they think you think you can be profitable using that strategy. Your brain might not think the same way. You might not have the capital to play the same way. You might not have the time to play the same way. So find what works for you. Don't try to build somebody else's strategy around your own, build your own strategy around theirs. So
fair enough. Yeah. Do you have something to add there?
No, I totally agree with that. Different time frames, different people. Single person that's 21, me married, 4 kids, or 3 kids, 40, like it's totally different life. Your time commitments are different. Your time frame that you're trading. Yeah.
Definitely. So now I'd like to move on to our last topic of the show, which is going to be a fun one. DJ, I understand that you've made some pretty interesting connections here between trading market cycles and the cosmos of all things. So I'm very interested to hear, what exactly is going on behind the scenes with you.
Sure. So I think I'm going to try and this is something that I could talk about forever. So I'm going to compress it as much as I can. I'm going to talk quickly. People can come back to the show and rewatch. After the show, I'll come on and put some links underneath this so people can go and look at the information as well too. So general thing here is that, I came from just a very average background, met my wife. She was into like astrology and stuff like that. I learned more about it. She doesn't do it like from a very like typical Western standpoint. It was the Magi astrology. So that's like the 3 wise men from the Bible. The way they do it is like a computer program. There's no room for interpretation. It is what it is, and that's it. So I started playing around with that for like sports gambling years and years ago, had some luck with it and was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But, we were newly married, broke, young, whatever. And it just kind of got forgotten about. Fast forward many years, I kind of started dabbling in charting and crypto. And then my wife, I think she like got an old computer running or something like that. I was like, oh, that astrological program, let's check this out. So I started playing around with that and coins, and I was like, wow, this is phenomenally accurate with, you know, different sort of planetary clashes and things like that. And then that got me looking into more of what's out there. You know, have other people done this? Is there a history within the markets? What other traders have done this? So now we're going to sort of look at this topic from two different standpoints. One, which is the market correlations themselves, and I'll show you some things, whether it be Mercury or the moon or the sun and 11-year solar cycles, but also lead into that with sort of, so a year ago, I was thinking that we were going to have a large economic event, and that when that happened, the rebound would be strong. So, and I'm going to take that. So here I say, oh, wait, I need to screen share. Okay, now here we go. Share. So at near the Bitcoin top, I said, if an economic event ever happens, Bitcoin is going to sell off too, because investors want to cover their losses, and then a huge squeeze. So we already talked about why there's huge losses, because good money is being covered, is covering bad money. And then why the big squeeze? Okay, so first of all, I mentioned earlier, risk on versus risk off, and rising tide takes all boats. So here we see when true risk comes into the market, everything sells off because there's this correlation. Now, the reason why I'm saying an economic event, one, and two, I say here, and I've been talking about this for a while, that I believed a 1987 style event. Not it all happens on one day, but an event of that magnitude. So we see in the long-term chart, if this is to keep happening, we have consolidation levels. And after these consolidation levels, we have small throwbacks here, here, and here. And after these small pullbacks, we get a strong run and then a serious pullback. Panic here, here, 1987, here, and then currently here, okay? Now, another reason for thinking that this was going to happen is that, and also GAN cycles and solar cycles. So the 17.6 year stock cycle, Kerry, I'm going to give him a shout out because this is his work. This says, okay, we're coming into a part of the market where it's going to slow down, and then we're going to see some panic. Okay. Now, if we do the same thing with GAN, where is it with GAN? I think we have to do this, copy, open an image and tab. We see he says the same kind of thing right here. So with GAN, this is made, you know, almost 100 years ago now. He's saying that 2019 or 2018 was going to be stock prices, 2019 was going to be panic, and that 2020 was going to be low prices. So at the end of 19 going into 20, the coronavirus hit, which was the basis of me thinking, okay, so we know from these, we know from solar cycles, I gotta get the right one, my bad, here it is. We know that solar cycles have these patterns roughly every 11 years. And we see that solar cycles are very tied into recessions, either at the very tops of the solar cycles or at the very bottoms of the solar cycles. That same thing is prevalent within pandemics as well, too. You're going to see pandemics often hit near the top and near the bottom of a solar cycle. So I'm looking at the China trade wars and thinking that everything is going to get sorted out. But in reality, what happened was the coronavirus kicked in, and then that's what made me go, I think the 1987 style event is going to happen because we're due for the panic here, which happens when this breaks out. And we have a solar cycle that is right near the bottom right now as well. So these things have played out. Now, why should 2024 be a big one? Well, this is like a panic right now. This isn't actual credit was totally hooped and the market was in a really bad spot. So we have Kerry here saying, okay, 2023 in his model should see some pullback. GAN here in his model says 2023, same thing, major crash, panic, 2023. And if we were to go back to here again, we're also gonna, nope. Where is it? Let's go find GE. Oh, did I blow it? There's a GE chart that I've posted many times. Shoot. Here it is. This is 2018. So I'm starting to notice, because I'm leading into the cycle theory now, that, okay, generally General Electric has a strong drawdown during a recession outside of 1987. And the same thing happened here, where General Electric started having this huge drawdown with no recession in sight. So there was, and natural gas was the same thing too. Even though I'm a crypto trader, I've been posting about natural gas for like 2 years, because the same repeating pattern kept happening. This year was actually a gas line that blew up in Western Canada. But here we are, the price is coming back down to trend. So I'm seeing energy, natural gas go down. I'm seeing General Electric lead this by quite a long time. I'm seeing solar cycles, pandemic cycles, all these things, bang, 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 which is why in January, when the coronavirus was only, a couple thousand cases in China, I'm saying it's coming and it's going to be a panic, the 1987 style event, because, like, I don't know why. Is it because markets are self-fulfilling, or is it because there's just what Einstein called spooky action at a distance? We don't know why spooky action at a distance happens. I don't believe that because Mercury is somewhere that makes you do something, or that it makes the markets do something. I just think that the universe is big and it's all correlated, and that maybe that those planets up there are just like a road sign, like a marker. It's just saying, okay, they're shifting, and when they shift a certain way, the energy in the universe itself is shifting. And that seems silly, but why should I be able to say, here comes panic, 1987, blah, 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 by looking at, planets and solar cycles? I think that's beyond correlated at that point. And we also know JP Morgan once famously said that millionaires don't need astrology, but billionaires do. And there's lots of information on this. And W.D. Gann, he was all about the Bible and astronomy. So he didn't call it astrology, but he called it, astronomical connections. JP Morgan used an actual astrologer. So you don't have to use the word astrology, but something about at the astronomy and the signs that are out there clearly have an as above, so below correlation. And whether that's a full moon and our behavior and how people fight more and there's more violence and police calls on a full moon, or if it's longer solar cycles. And to just round this out, because I am talking about solar cycles. Let's go to,
I think it goes with numbers. That's just a numbers thing though, too. There's percentages in the markets, there's percentages in nature. There's those cycles you're talking about. I bet you if you look at them, there's a certain percentage or a certain mutual factor that they have in time where they keep reoccurring at these percentage of whether it's the Fibonacci or whatever. So
yeah, and that was a lot of Gann's work with cycle theory, and that's what I've noticed a lot. So here we see this is called this would be like just your general sunspot cycle, every 11 years, a top, a low, and an 11-year cycle. Here we are finishing this cycle 24, and the next cycle is supposed to be higher. Each cycle has been diminishing in power. That's important because this is a longer term cycle. So right here, these are every 11 years, but did I lose it? But right here, these are every more than 100 years. So each one of those small cycles grows bigger and then grows smaller. So what's happening right now is we're going into what's called the new Dalton minimum. So that's why we're going to be seeing a lot of why I think like the last time we had a minimum was the Great Depression. And that was with falling energy into it as well.
Going to the moon.
This is also, I'm just going to tie that up with what we're seeing with upheaval in America and China and yada, yada. these cycles are also the large cycles, not the 11-year cycles. The grand cycles have often been correlated with the rise and falls of societies and empires as well too. So it's very interesting. You know, I'm not saying that this is something that you use to trade on small timescales, but these are things that are clearly repeating. How epic traders like Gann and epic, you know, influencers of economic policy like JP Morgan, we're looking at these kind of things. So it doesn't mean, you know, put all the chips on it. This is much like any other market model. It's something to use to look at pivot points. And then when the market starts showing you strength or weakness, you know, you pounce on it with general TA.
I don't have any tinfoil, but it's my tinfoil hat for you.
And then over the years, you know, there's, we see what are called Saturn clashes. So often when people do general astrology, you see they do what's called a natal chart. That's your birth chart. And different planets can either, you know, combine with you or clash with you. Times when there's no negative influence from Saturn whatsoever on the Bitcoin natal chart are almost always during uptrends. And then whether it's that or just seasonalities. We've called this, you know, years ago with Ethereum when I started, you know, here's one example of me basically saying, here's when it happens, December 7th, you know, let's see, bang, December 7th. These types of things have happened in other markets, same sort of seasonalities coming near tops and bottoms. Same thing here with Bitcoin when it was coming out of the lows, we were seeing like pullbacks. And these pullbacks, I didn't leave this one here. These pullbacks are often had Mercury retrograde happening near the bottom of these levels, and then pushing out after when Jupiter went direct. People, here's a guy, whatever these people are. They actually posted about Mercury retrograde, and I had a laugh because this is stuff I've talked about for years. But we do see these pullbacks, and now Bitcoin is pulling back. Well, Bitcoin is a communication device. And Mercury rules, you know, communication, they say. So if the energy, the underlying, whether it's cosmic waves, I don't know, but some sort of fundamental underlying energy in the universe is saying, you know, war or, you know, peace or, you know, prosperity or communication problems, it just keeps on correlating for some reason. Now, is that self-fulfilling prophecy, or is that because there's something going on? So if there's something going on, hey, I just gave you some things that people can go look so that they can have more long-term insight into the market. Or it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, you should still understand these tools, because 2 billion Asians are trading off those self-fulfilling prophecies. So why should you say, whatever, screw it, it's not real? If they believe it, they're driving the market, the chart shows it. It's as simple as that.
That was awesome. I love that. That was
go on for like an hour and do a big presentation, but you know, it's a show, and I think that that's a good sort of base for people to pique some interest.
Very cool.
Yeah, we got some funny comments in the chat as well. Chinese Checker says, "My astrology says Bitcoin going to the moon." I think that's one we can all get behind. Yeah, Gunnar, I saw that you had a little mind blown moment there. What's your reaction to all this?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. I like Gann stuff actually for high time frames, especially. So I think it's all really cool stuff. And like you said, if the market is acknowledging it, then you have to acknowledge it too. You know, if whatever there's a Mercury retrograde or whatever, the price goes up, then probably if you don't want to believe it, at least don't fight it. You know, don't short it. Somebody tells you can walk across the street with your eyes closed and not ever get hit by a car, are you going to do it, or are you going to open your eyes every time? So
great.
The last thing that I just wanted to throw onto that, if that's okay, or is that okay if I?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Is I forgot to leave out something called Ghost Month. I know it sounds silly, but it's very prevalent within Asian cultures, Chinese. Is that it's believed to be auspicious. You know, it's very auspicious to be overly invested in Ghost Month. The ghost of your ancestors come back and blah, 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 blah. Like that's crazy to most traders, right? But doesn't matter if it's crazy, because they themselves actually, you know, trade upon this. They pull back their investments going into it, and there is a lot of correlation. So this guy actually did a whole bunch of charts, but the general thing here is you study the charts posted, you've noticed that the market went up 50% of the time between July and August. So he's just talking about like the Dow or the SPX. But even if the market is trending down during ghost month, you're really going to hit it. But if the market is trending up, even in the 50% of the time when the market was trending up, during ghost month, 60% of the time it went down. So there's a very small percentage of when you take the bull and the bear market where ghost month has actually been bullish. It's been very few. So that is a time that we're coming into with Bitcoin. We've seen some historic lows in ghost month, and it usually goes like this. There's ghost month at the front end and the back end, and the ghost festival is in the middle. Usually people in Asia unwind their position into the beginning of ghost month, and then the market from ghost month to the beginning day to ghost festival is very, very weak. And some market participants will enter the day after ghost festival or wait till the end of the ghost month itself. So take a look at it this year. Let's see what happens. We are in a Mercury retrograde now, and we have ghost month coming up. Gunner's talking about Wyckoff distribution. Bida bang.
That is some spooky stuff.
Okay.
We've got Marcus Blackburn in the chat who's actually confirming. He says, I'm in Taiwan. No one does anything risky in ghost month. Reduce travel, not going to the beach, swimming, etc. So yeah, there's some truth to that.
Wow.
So thank you everyone for watching. I think this concludes the show. Big thank you to our guests DJ Thistle and Nebraskan Gunner for coming on the show. Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Really appreciate you guys in chat coming out, asking your questions. We had a lot of great questions today. It sparked a lot of interesting conversations. So thank you guys for that. If you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed the show, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date. We have these shows every single week, same time, same day, Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So you can know when those come out if you subscribe, and all other great interviews. Yeah. So, and also we have our contest for next week. So if you think the price of Bitcoin on Thursday next week at 2 p.m. Eastern time, after the live stream is finished, write that guess in the chat below, in the comment section below, and we will announce the winner to that next week at the beginning of the show. Thank you guys again. I'm your host and journalist Jackson at Cointelegraph. Go Arsenal. Let's go.
I'll send you one of these, my friend.
I would love that, man. I would love that. That's awesome. Yeah, go Gunners. All right, guys, thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.